Imagine this. The most influential parent in your life isn't your mom or dad. It's an invisible algorithm. Every scroll, every notification, every late-night doom scroll, a system you've never seen is quietly shaping how you think, feel, and connect with other people. This is not a video about phone addiction. This is about how your nervous system was trained by feeds and notifications, because that was the most consistent presence in your daily life. Quick self-check. If your mood changes more from what happens on your screen than what happens in your actual day, how much power does that algorithm really have over you? Stay with me, because once you see this clearly, you can't unsee it. Here, we decode modern behavior using psychology and neuroscience. Not pop-psych cliches, not toxic positivity. Just clear, grounded explanations of why you act, think, and feel the way you do. We offer practical strategies to navigate modern-day issues. Today, we're looking at the psychology of Gen Z as a generation partially raised by algorithms instead of present, consistent parents. I call this algorithmic parenting. If you feel numb, constantly split between your online and offline self, or like you can't regulate your emotions without your phone, this is not because you're broken. Modern life trained your brain to respond this way. By the end of this video, you'll understand 3 specific ways algorithms have rewired your psychology, and you'll have a simple method to start taking control back. What is algorithmic parenting? Algorithmic parenting is what happens when recommendation systems and endless feeds become a constant shaping presence in your life, the thing that's always there. It doesn't have values. It doesn't care about your long-term well-being. It only optimizes for one thing: engagement. Psychologically, 2 things are happening. First, attachment. Attachment theory says we bond with what is consistently present and responsive in our environment. For many people, the most consistent presence wasn't a calm, emotionally available adult. It was the feed. Second, reinforcement learning. Your brain repeats what gets rewarded. Every like, comment, view, and notification is a tiny reward. The algorithm tracks what keeps you on the app and then feeds you more of it. So, your attachment system and your reward system both started tuning themselves to this invisible machine. Here's a question to test that. If you disappeared from social media for 30 days, no posts, no stories, no scrolling, what would you fear more? The reactions of people in your life, or the feeling of becoming irrelevant to the algorithm? If that second one hits, algorithmic parenting is already in your nervous system. Let's break this into 3 shifts: attachment rewiring, identity fragmentation, and emotional dysregulation. Attachment rewiring. Your brain didn't just learn phones are fun. It learned the feed is where connection lives. The feed is always there when you wake up. It's there when you can't sleep. It responds instantly to what you post, what you watch, what you like. That's what reliable caregivers are supposed to do. Notice you, respond to you, mirror you. So, likes, comments, and views start feeling like emotional attunement. When a post does well, you feel seen. When it doesn't, you feel ignored. And because the algorithm is inconsistent, sometimes rewarding, sometimes silent, it creates a kind of anxious attachment. You keep checking, you keep posting, you keep reaching out to this digital parent that never fully satisfies you. Ask yourself, when you feel lonely, what do you reach for first? A person or your screen? Identity fragmentation. Most people watching this have multiple selves online. Your main account, maybe an alternative, a private story, a close friends circle, a more professional version for work or school, and maybe an anonymous space where you say what you really think. Psychologist Carl Jung called it the shadow. This is the part of you that doesn't fit the image you show the world. Traditionally, the shadow was private. Now, for many people, the shadow has its own audience. You might notice something uncomfortable. The version of you that feels most real is the version you only show in hidden spaces. That creates a split. Am I my curated self? Am I my unfiltered self? Or am I just whatever performs best on this platform? A/B check for you. A. You feel like too much in real life, too emotional, too intense, too sensitive. B. You feel like not enough online, not interesting enough, not aesthetic enough, not getting enough engagement. Which one feels closer to your experience, A or B? Drop that in the comments later. The pattern itself is information. The third shift is in your nervous system, what psychologists call emotional dysregulation. You grew up with constant stimulation, notifications, breaking news, viral drama, short-form videos, endless scroll. Your brain adapted to an environment where something intense is always about to happen. Inside your body, that means your baseline arousal level is higher. Calm feels strange. Boredom feels unbearable. Slow emotions, things like grief, subtle joy, quiet contentment, become harder to sit with because they don't hit as hard or as fast as your feed. So you flip between two states, numb and overstimulated. You might say, I'm just bad at being present. But neurologically, what's happening is, your brain has been trained to expect constant novelty and micro-dopamine spikes. This is not a character flaw. This is conditioning. Here's a quick test for you. Can you sit with one uncomfortable feeling for 60 seconds without reaching for your phone? Type yes or no in the comment section. Just notice your impulse there. That urge is the algorithm living inside your nervous system. This translates to real-life realities that forms a pattern-unique algorithm raised to adults, most of them, the Gen Z. Pattern 1, the background noise student. They can't study in silence. They always have a video, a stream, or a podcast running. They scroll while eating, while walking, even in the bathroom. They say things like, if it's quiet, my brain starts screaming. What's happening? Silence forces their nervous system to feel whatever's underneath: anxiety, sadness, emptiness. The algorithm has become their emotional regulator, always filling the space so those feelings don't surface. Pattern 2, the performance checker. They wake up and check notifications before they check in with their own body. Heart rate, breathing, mood, all ignored until they see how their content performed. If a post does well, they feel worthy. If it flops, they feel invisible. Again, that's not vanity. That's identity being validated by a machine instead of by human relationships. Here's a reflection prompt for you, and I'd love to see this in the comments. Modern life trained me to not, I'm just lazy, or I'm just broken. Name the training, not the defect. Now, you can't delete algorithms from the world, but you can stop letting them raise your nervous system. This is where the SOS method comes in. Stop, observe, strategize. Use it in the exact moment you feel yourself reaching for the feed on autopilot. Stop. You don't have to throw your phone away. Just put a small pause between the urge and the action. You notice, I'm about to open this app without thinking. Even a 3-second pause is enough to interrupt the automatic loop. Observe. Ask yourself, what am I actually needing right now? Am I bored? Am I lonely? Am I anxious and looking to numb out? Am I craving validation? Name it. When you name the state, you pull it out of the shadows and bring it into awareness. Strategize. Now you choose on purpose. Maybe you still decide to scroll, but you do it consciously for a set amount of time, instead of disappearing for an hour. Or you pick a different action that actually meets the need. If you're lonely, message one real person instead of broadcasting to the void. If you're anxious, set a 60-second timer, feel the anxiety in your body, and repeat internally, I can stand this feeling for 60 seconds without numbing it. If you're bored, sit with it and see what your mind does when it's not being fed. The mantra here is simple. I can stand this feeling for 60 seconds without numbing it. That 1 minute is where you start retraining your nervous system. You're teaching your brain, I am the one regulating me now, not the algorithm. So let's pull this together. Algorithmic parenting means algorithms became a constant presence that rewired your attachment system toward the feed, fragmented your identity across multiple selves, and trained your nervous system to expect constant stimulation. None of that means you're broken. It means you were trained. With the SOS method, stop, observe, strategize, you start reversing that training, one small decision at a time. You weren't weak, you were shaped. Now, you're learning the code. If one part of this video hit especially hard, the attachment piece, the identity split, or the emotional dysregulation, tell me which one in the comments. If you want more evidence-based breakdowns of modern behavior and identity, like and subscribe to this channel so content like this finds you more often than the mindless scroll. You're not behind, you're just starting to see the system clearly, and that's where change actually begins. See you in the next video.